In this next interview, Jennifer McLean. She is a transformational expert, and I think there's a twist in here. Wait till you watch and see. Jennifer, thank you so much for coming today. It's such a pleasure to have you.
Oh, it's a delight being here. I'm really honored. Thank you.
Well, to start off, tell me about yourself and your business.
Well, I'm a healer, and I'm also a business strategist. I worked in corporate America for many, many years, and worked in the tech industry for quite a while. I helped to launch Yahoo Canada in 1995.
Launch what?
Yahoo.
Oh my gosh.
In Canada, yeah.
Okay, wait. So pretty much everything you just said is like, what?
Yeah, it's kind of antithetical.
Yes.
Two different worlds.
And that's why I love this series.
Yes.
It's perfect.
Yes.
So first, explain what a healer is.
That's a great question. A healer is someone who can, let me talk about the way I do healing. Mm-hmm. I do healing so that I hold a space for people to transform, and I give them tools and techniques and processes so that they can continue the transformation long after we're done. So basically, I appreciate their system as it's expressing itself. And when you appreciate someone's system as it expresses, they are seen. And when someone is seen, it creates instant shift and transformation. So that's kind of where I start, is by being present and being in a state of neutrality so that I can see them and what they're doing and the coping mechanisms they've created and the subconscious beliefs they've created from childhood upset and how that's impacting their life right now.
Is this physical, mental? When you're healing, what are you healing?
Yes.
Ah.
Physical, mental, emotional. And I focus a lot on the emotional. In our society, especially women, we have not been encouraged to express our emotions. In fact, many women are often accused of being overly emotional by our beautiful men. And part of the reason is because the beautiful men just don't access their emotions in the same way. They just don't. It's a biological imperative. We do it differently than men. Mm-hmm. And so because men have been kind of dominant in our society, there has been this thing that women are overly emotional. And yet, for both men and women, it's through the emotions that actual healing and transformation occurs. It's through the actual expression of the emotion. And most people don't express their emotion. Most people avoid their emotions. And so I really play with physical, emotional, and mental, as well as spiritual, with an emphasis subtly. Most people won't know that that's what I'm doing. But my intention is to work through the emotional body to really create a kind of a frequency and energy of allowing that allows the system to finally express the emotion. And my system of healing, called the Spontaneous Transformation Technique, is specifically designed to assist in expressing the emotions that we couldn't express when we were children. Most trauma occurs from 0 to 7 years old. And in that time frame is when we establish who we are, what life is. We make conclusions about all of that. And those conclusions are often wrong. Yes. And so we spend our life then trying to unwind what happened then. So part of what I do is assist them in resolving that trauma without going into the trauma and the memories.
So someone comes to you and you said you assist them and then you teach, like, I'm coming to you, what happens?
Sure. Most of the work I do now is to large groups. Mm. So I create, that's part of my entrepreneurial side, which is I create funnels and I create marketing conversations, mostly with women it's mostly women who are attracted to this work, although more and more men are starting to be attracted to it. And so I create a vibrational, energetic conversation that allows them to join me. And then I create processes and techniques and transformational ways of moving this energy.
Okay, wait, you lost me. Explain that. So you help healers market their business? Is that what you're saying?
No, I help people find their light. I help people let go of the old trauma and find a place of possibility and flow and joy and even happiness.
What you just said totally speaks to me. You help people find their light.
Yes.
I really think that speaks to many women in this audience. And maybe, do you feel like, what's going on? Why can't, is it all the trauma we've experienced?
Yes. It's trauma, but I also trust the trauma. So a lot of people move through their life, especially at this moment. Most people who are watching programs like this are ready to make a real shift. And so one of the things I like to share with them right away is there's nothing going wrong. That all of life is here for you in every moment. Every moment, whether your mind has decided it's good or bad, is here for you, nudging you to an expansion that might not be possible without the current set of circumstances that you're in.
Right.
And so when we're in that place, we can look at life as not being for us, being against us, and that we are somehow victimized by our circumstances. That's never the truth, although I get that it feels that way.
It's never
ever the truth. But I get that it can feel that way. I get that.
Right.
I've been in those situations when it's like, why me? And yet, why not you? So part of it is, from my perspective, from a spiritual perspective, is that the soul is on a powerful, amazing adventure of evolution. And so we come to this planet, this is my belief system, and if any of your listeners don't believe this, that's totally okay. It's all right. But it helps me. It helps me to believe it. It helps me to have a really great life, to believe that my soul came to this adventure and created a series of experiments and a series of adventures that the mind would perceive as both good and bad. And each one of them propelled me in a direction. I had a very challenging childhood, narcissism and abuse, sexual abuse and alcoholism. And there's no question when I look back on that childhood that my soul chose that so that I could do what I'm doing right now. I could talk to your audience right now. Those set of circumstances created a set of coping mechanisms and patterns and upsets and stuck and blockage and self-sabotage behaviors that when I saw them, consciously brought my attention to them and unwound them slowly but surely over my lifetime, I got to a place where I could say, I can help just about anyone. Chronic illness, I had cancer, overcame cancer, chronic illness, and I even had my own narcissistic tendencies. And so just about anyone that comes to me, this is my calling, I can assist them now because I get it. I understand pain. I understand physical pain. I understand emotional pain. I understand so much of it. So I trust implicitly my life. I trust my soul. I trust that my soul brought me through all these incredible adventures that allowed me to not only overcome them, but understand them and create systems and processes and techniques to help other people do the same. So everyone that's listening here, you are on a soul journey. You're on a journey of evolution.
It's so weird because our series thus far has been very logical. And I myself, you have, you come from corporate America. I have an engineering degree. And I am being pulled exactly what you're talking about.
I think many of us are.
I think that is the point.
Yes.
How funny. I've interviewed 50 women, and every time I'm like, no, this will go a certain way. We'll talk about marketing. Here we are again, going into the woo. Yeah. And you know what? It's time.
Yeah, it is. It is. The world is, it's the answer for what's next.
Thank you.
It's the answer for what's next. So in 2019, in the December, I believe it was 2019, we had a really interesting transit that happened astrologically and astronomically. that actually moved all of us into the age of Aquarius. This is the dawning of the age of Aquarius.
So you mean all?
It's
Okay,
here.
I'm gonna say this. All of us,
All of
star
us.
seeds,
All of
like
us.
light workers, all of us are here.
All of us are here.
Okay.
All of us up here. Some of us came a long time ago to be at this moment. Some of them are just being born now. But the age of Aquarius is also the age of the feminine.
Ah,
Okay.
yes.
So,
Yes.
right now, astrologically and astronomically, the last time this happened was the end of the Black Plague and the beginning of the Renaissance, right? So, but we're on another level of it. So, there's a calling. There's a calling. There's anyone who's,
Women are feeling
Right?
it. Yes, we're feeling it.
and people who are attracted to this kind of material are, yes, they are being called, yes, and they're being called to be more authentic, to be more real, to be more powerful. And it's not the age of Aquarius. The kind of power is different than the old, which was power over.
Yes.
And I trust that too. I trust that there was a reason for that until there wasn't.
Right.
It was there until it isn't. Now we're moving into this new age, and there's these 25,000 year cycles, 10,000 year cycles, 5,000, 2,500 year cycles. We're at the end of one of all of those. It's starting into a new one. And the prophecies say that we're moving into a time of 10,000 years of peace. And so guess what happens before peace?
Disruption.
All the shadow.
Yeah.
Disruption,
Yeah.
shadow. So everything that's been in the dark, that's been in the shadows, is being up
Yeah.
for review and out. That's not only in our society and our world, but it's also within ourselves. So everything is being up for review and out, right? So it's coming up, and review means conscious understanding and attention. Consciousness, looking at it, seeing, what's happened and the patterns and the old beliefs that we've held that have influenced our life until it doesn't, until we change our mind. And that's where all of us are at right now, changing our minds.
And I just want to reaffirm, it's all your stuff coming up.
Yes.
It's painful. It's
Yes.
challenging.
It's messy.
It's confusing. It's messy. It's
Confusing.
scary.
It can be.
Yeah.
It can be. And so, there's that. I'm a big believer of feeling your feelings, as I've described, the emotional. The idea is to express the emotion, and then through the expression of the emotion comes this opportunity for more space in our field, if you will. And in that space of space, is an opportunity for power. Mm-hmm. And it's a different kind of power than I'm successful, I make a lot of money, I drive a BMW. All those things are okay, but that's not what power is anymore.
No.
Power is authentic being. And in authentic being, the heart is allowed to open. And in a heart opening, we are way more powerful. And what's interesting is then what happens then is natural protection. Natural protection. So a lot of the woo-woo stuff of the new age, if you will, was I have to shield myself, I have to protect myself, and I'm saying, no, be you.
bigger.
Be you, be bigger.
Oh, it's so weird because I think women who understand what we're talking about get what we're talking about. And lately I have been experiencing that I'm afraid to go around certain people because I feel like I have to protect myself. Mm-hmm. That I'm going to, we as women sometimes take on,
Yes.
taking care of and just taking on.
Okay, so let me
help me.
Can I give you a little? I'm going to give you a little process here.
Yes,
that will
please.
allow you to now stand in any room and be in good shape. My big thing right now is being in
room,
good shape.
but within your family, within like
Any room.
Okay, good.
Any room. A room with a boss that is overbearing and bully. In a room with a narcissistic sibling, parent, whatever.
Right.
In a room where you're simply intimidated.
Right.
Okay, so here's a little process. It's super easy. Okay, so I play this thing called the what if game with myself. And so what happens is our mind is the one that creates in our world, right? The mind is the catalyst for taking the soul's intention, working through what I call the heart, and the mind then makes it happen. It's the place where action occurs to make things happen in the world. And so the mind is the one that's creating both the upset and the joy. Mm-hmm. That's where it's coming from. Mm-hmm. So it's always a choice. And so I play this what if game with my mind. So I'll give you an example. Affirmations. I am incredibly wealthy, right? My mind immediately says,
no, you're not.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that's why affirmations are difficult. So instead, I use what if. What if I were incredibly wealthy? Mm. What would that feel like? I asked myself this. What would that feel like? What would that be like? And then immediately what you're doing is you are in a field of creation. Mm. And you're creating this vibration, this energy of creation. And you're standing in it now. And what's happening is there's space. There's more space. And when, just that old thinking of just have time to think, you know that? Mm-hmm. The space gives you this energy, and space and time are connected, right? So if you have more space, you actually warp time. You create more time. So what if allows you to move into the energy of what is, not what the mind has decided is wrong and bad and in judgment, or even in self-righteous indignation, all that. There's a lot of that going on. Yeah. And so what if, so here's how to be powerful. Get back to that point.
Yeah.
What if I were standing in the center of my soul right now? So play that with me.
Okay.
Play the what if game with yourself, and everyone can do it now. Just ask yourself, total play and pretend and fantasy. Okay, so we know that we can't do this, but what if we could? So what if right now I were standing, say this to yourself, in the center of my very soul? What if I could do that? What if I could stand in this place of no thing? No conditions, no attachments, no expectations, no thing. In this infinite, eternal void of love. What if I could be there right now? And again, the mind might come in and say, I don't know. You can turn your mind and say, thanks very much, beautiful mind. I get that you have some issues, or maybe you're a little nervous about it. It's okay. We're just going to play. We're just playing. We're just pretending. Thank you very much for the intervention. And yet, I'm going to go back into, what if I were actually standing in the center of my soul in my power? There we go. There's a nice shift that just happened there.
Yeah.
So what if I were in the center of my soul right now, and I could feel and sense my soul. I could feel the connection to my soul. I could feel the light and the love that I am. I could really stand in this place of neutrality. There we go. There's a nice shift there. Now, if I were there, and I could stay there just for a second or two, I could really feel the space that's around me. There we go. There's a lovely shift that's happening here as everyone moves to this. So just so you know, I have this gift from working with hundreds of thousands of people that I can feel your audience. So I've got everyone here. I can feel them.
And will you please tell us, no matter when somebody's watching this, no matter when you're watching it, no matter when.
From now until the end of time, that's what's programmed in here. Yeah, so everyone, I can feel everyone, and there's a group shift that happens that raises all of us up right now as we stand in the center of our soul. There we go.
Wait. That image you just created of all the women who need to hear this, all of us at this moment together, together, going through this.
Yes.
That's why this is here. So thank you for keep going. But I just want to remind everyone that we're doing this all as a feminine power. We're all letting it go.
Yes.
We're all right here
right now.
Together.
In fact, I think that you and me and everyone watching made an agreement for this very moment to happen before we even came to this planet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Center of the soul. Center of the soul. And there's a shift that's happening as we all together now, are standing in the center of the soul. So there really is no such thing as time and space. It's all happening simultaneously. So no matter when someone is listening to this, they're part of this.
All of
They're
us
part
together.
of this. Absolutely. Okay, good. So now, as we're in the center of the soul, in the infinite, eternal void of love, and the no thing, the still point, the stillness, no conditions, no attachments, no expectations, just 0 point. There we go. Whoa, there's a nice shift. Okay, so now just imagine, everyone imagine now that you're about to go into a situation that has been challenging in the past, a room, a person, whatever, okay? So, but this time you're going to go in from this place. Just imagine now. So imagine now going into that situation from this place. And is it okay if you tell me what's happening now? What's happening for you as you go into that place from this place of center of the soul?
Well, I just clicked into, instead of, do I have a challenging person in my life? And when I'm not in this place,
Yes.
first I want to say, I do this and it's life-changing. And so I appreciate you walking us through what kind of happens. And when you're not in this place and you have that person, it's all reaction.
That's right.
You're just
That's right.
guarding yourself and fighting back.
Perfect. So here's why, okay? When we're in the center of our soul, we've created space, right? So if you imagine that your universe is like this big ball,
Yes.
right? It's like the proprioceptors. You know what proprioceptors are?
Yeah.
It's little nerve endings in the skin and the arms that that indicate where your limbs are in space. So imagine now you've got this big, huge ball around you. You've created this extra space, and this ball now has stronger boundaries, borders, if you
Yes.
will. It's like a semi-permeable membrane that is protecting us naturally, because we now have flowing through this space a conscious understanding that we are protected,
Right.
which creates power. A conscious understanding that there is light moving through this space that creates stronger borders. So now we go into a situation and the proprioceptors are already telling us long in advance, hey, something's coming, and instead we see them. And we, just like martial arts.
It's like in Matrix when they can...
That's right.
Yes.
That's exactly right. We just got
Yes.
chills. You totally got it.
Yes,
So
I
like
saw
martial artists, the energy's coming towards us and we go, look at that. Poochoo.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
moves right past us.
You just explained, that's so cool. Like instead of an animal fight or flight
Yes.
reaction,
Yes.
you're in your seat of power.
That's right.
And can come out and just
So
flow.
when we don't have space, which most of us don't, our field is literally collapsed. And what that means is our field is right here, right? And so now we're in reaction mode. All we can do from this energy is react, because the whatever's coming is like all of a sudden it's there. It's like, right? Oh my God. Ah.
Yeah.
And instead, what if I were in the center of my soul and I could feel my light and power? I could feel that I am that I am. Right? And it's real.
Do we create from there? Okay,
Yes.
what else can we do from that?
This is the foundation of everything.
Okay,
So when we're in this place,
yeah.
we are now more in contact with our soul. We are now more it's like the whispers of our divine self can talk to us from here. Because when we're here, we can't hear anything.
Yeah.
We can't hear our intuition. We're full on in reaction mode. But when we have space, we have these natural proprioceptors that are, which is our antenna, which is our gut, which is our intuition, saying, hey, look over there. Look over there. But if we're here, we can't hear anything. We're just in protection and I'm a victim. Instead, we move into space and we have a natural propensity to see so many more opportunities. And so when we're in this place, every time I create a new course, I do two things. I move into this place, and then in the center of my soul, I invite the spokesperson for my customers. So there's a single spokesperson that represents all the customers that are going to love this course. I invite them into the space. And then I say, what do you need? What do you need? And then they tell me what the course is. And then they tell me how they want to hear about it. That's the marketing funnel, the marketing conversation. They tell me who they are. Now I have an avatar for my business, and an avatar that I know them because they're telling me who they are. And most of my avatars are the me that was before I started my business. And I know that now. I mean, that's something I coach entrepreneurs with is talk to the you that was before you created what you're creating.
Can you give us an example of what that sounds like, the back and forth? Like, what would you hear?
Sure. I recently created a course called The Soul Power, and some of the content I'm sharing with you is what the course is about. And so part of it has to do with what's going on in my own life. Most of entrepreneurial things happen because of what we're experiencing in our life right now. So it's perfect timing. Everything we do, we're doing for us. We're doing for us first, right? And so the Soul Power Formula was a course that I started to feel like, something needs to happen here, right? So I'm working with one of my clients. I do take on private sessions rarely. It's where most of the new material comes through. And I'm working with someone, and the Soul Power Formula came through in that moment. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is cool. And so then I was called by my customers and said, we want this. We want this. So I went into the center of my soul, and I had a little meeting with the avatar for all the people, the person that would represent the soul group. And I said, what do you want? What does it look like? And so it started describing the course. And it said, I want 10 sessions, and I want to do a live interactive 3-hour event at the end. And I want to have, the conversation, in order for me to get into the course, I want you to give away the entire Soul Power Formula. I'm like, what? Like, that's not how marketing works. You don't give away the farm, right? So then I'm like, okay. So it was a webinar, and I also have my skill set. So they leveraged my skill set and said, I know how to create funnels, and I do all my own copywriting and that kind of stuff. And so it said they want the funnel to look like this, similar to another funnel I did, and that they want me to do this long webinar, movie length, that gives them the actual formula. I'm like, are you sure? Because the marketing part of me is going, don't give away the formula. That's what the course is. But they said, yes, give us the formula. And it's like, okay, but what's the course then? And then they said, well, here's 4 steps of the formula. Step 3 is shifting the energy. So give them all the things that you do to shift the energy. There was a dozen of them. So the course is, the Soul Power Formula is 4 steps. And the course is all the things that can shift energy. So now they've got this toolkit. And the other thing they said to me was, we want worksheets. We don't want to just have an experiential, which all my courses are experiential. You listen, you shift, you change. We want the worksheet so that we can do it on our own. Like, oh, cool. So, and then I created the product, and I created the funnel, and it's been one of the most successful launches so far. And what's happening, though, is each time I do something for my business, I'm listening more and more and more carefully to the intuition, to, sometimes I go to these masterminds, and I'm like so influenced by all these successful people. And I'm interested to go to a new one now, because I get to now be in the center of my soul and say, nope, nope, nope. Oh, yes.
Well, that was my question. So does it, like you were in the center of your soul, and this thing comes up, give it all away, and you're like, what? No. What? No. How
do you trust it?
How do you trust it? And then you've done it so many times now, you know that's truth? Like, how do you trust it, and how do you know what if it's not right?
Okay, this is really cool. So the mind is the only thing that's going to say that it's not right.
Okay, give that to me again. And
The mind is the one that says it's not right. Okay? So I just watched a special on Alanis Morissette. Are you familiar with Alanis
Yes.
Morissette? Okay. So she was 19 years old when she wrote
Jagged Little Pill.
She was a Debbie Gibson-like pop star before that, which I didn't know actually. And she was pop star city, and she had had a very challenging experience with the industry being so young and basically on her own in that industry. And there had been abuse. And so she had a lot to say about being a woman in the music industry. And she was told over and over again that she's not a writer. And so what happens is we can either believe that or not believe that. When we get to the point where we're in the center of our soul, we get to say, it's like a natural filter that allows us to understand what's real and what's not real, right? It's none of my business what anyone thinks of me, right? My business is to be connected and to listen for the whispers of my, my divine inspiration, my divine impulse. The divine impulses are like, they say, stop the car and go into that store, right? And suddenly we go into the store and there's the man of our dreams getting milk, right? Right? So we listen to that divine impulse. I call it the I am pulse, right? I am pulse, impulse.
Oh.
And so how do we trust it? Well, Alanis Morissette is such a great example of that. She was compelled to do this. She was compelled to write these songs. She was compelled. It's a calling. And when the challenge is sometimes we as women don't trust that, and we ask opinions, and those people say, what are you talking about? That won't work.
What about if the voice... Okay, so I'm just going to keep riffing on this.
Please.
Okay, so it comes in lots of different forms. And I'm just showing you some more. That won't work. That's stupid. That I can't do that. Is it all of those?
Yes, all of those are your mind.
Anything.
All of those are your mind.
Okay, so the only I'm going to flip it. So I always tell people your intuition doesn't speak in fear. Is that kind of the concept?
Yes.
Okay.
That's brilliant. That's exactly
like
right.
if you're in your power or someone says, how do I decide? I say, go into that. So funny. The center of your soul, your power position, and choose from there.
That's right.
But it's so scary.
It's only scary if you think it's scary.
Ooh.
It's not really scary. And, with everything, like learning a new skill, right? Beginner's mind is so important. Like, if you're learning how to play the piano, you're not going to play a concerto next week. You're just not. So is that scary? Like something as simple as playing the piano or learning how to ride a bicycle, learning how to drive. Is it scary? Well, yeah, because we don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
But once we start, it's just one step and then the next step and the next step and the next step. And the key is when you're in the center of your soul, you're listening for what's the next breadcrumb. Right. You can hear it. It's like, and it's okay to see the end point. It's okay, because I call that the big, hairy, audacious intention, right? They call it a BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal. I call it intention because goals to me are too restrictive. And my mind has come up with the goal. And if I have an intention, that leaves so much room for the soul to come in and make it happen.
Intention.
And so my big, hairy, audacious intention is to, whatever it is to, I'm writing a new book now, and it's going to be a global bestseller, and I'm going to write a musical with it. And that's a huge intention.
Yeah.
Right? And so could it be scary? Well, for me, it's not scary anymore, because it's just like, well, duh, of course I'm going to do it when I do it. And if I'm not doing it, it's because it's not time.
Well, so sometimes you open up and you're like, please, okay, ready for the answer, and nothing comes in.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Nothing's great. Nothing is no thing. Nothing, the Buddhists say the greatest place of being is the no thing, is the place of I don't know. That's a very high level spiritual place of being. But what happens in our mind has decided that there's something wrong with that. So, people, I work with people and they say, nothing's happening. I'm like, oh, you're the advanced one. You're in the advanced energy of no thing. Congratulations. Because from the no thing is where all possibilities and pure flow, pure potentiality is right there in the no thing. And so it's our mind that has a problem with that. Now, there's this other thing that I call the gap, God's area of preparation. We hold a big, hairy, audacious intention, right? So mine is to write this best-selling fictional book, which I've never written a fictional book before, and write a musical. And I've already started the musical, but now I'm going backwards and doing the book. And so I'm in God's area of preparation right now, because if I were in pure alignment with that being done, I would be doing it, finishing it, completing it, and moving on to bringing it into the world. But that's not happening. What if that's okay? That in order for me to get to that place of, for anyone, creating a business, whatever it is, things have to change within the way I think, within my mindset, with my heart. Things have to shift.
And I'm going to stop you.
Yeah.
You know that because it's not coming in, flowing in? Okay.
If it's not flowing in, it means you're not quite there yet.
Okay.
That's okay. So in God's area of preparation, you're now taking all these little steps that seem like they're not directly related to that, but must happen in order for you to get there.
And does that mean you just go day to day and do what?
Stand in the center of your soul.
Ah, okay.
And listen for what's the next step. What's the next step? What's the next step? What's the next step? I started writing the musical 5 years ago, and I was not ready. The book is unusual. It's an unusual book, and it's about it's a fictional book about a woman who basically overcomes sexual abuse and lives a life that is that can find happiness. And each time I think I found happiness, there's another level, right? There's another level to it. There's more happiness, in each day. And, I'm still not the happiest person in the world. There's still more to play with. But I couldn't have done it 5 years ago. And most of us in hindsight see that it's not going to happen until the minute it happens, not 1 second before. And if we can trust that, it's going to happen exactly when it happens. There's a plan. There's definitely some free will in there. There's a plan. The free will can, it's like 1 year to 5 years difference, but it's going to happen. It's going to happen.
Well, tell us more about it's going to happen.
Okay. Let's think of our soul. Before we got here, we decided that we were going to have this amazing adventure, like just the best adventure. So just imagine that we're going to plan a trek to the Himalayas. Just imagine that we're going to do that, okay? So let's liken it to how our soul is going to imagine this lifetime. So if we're here planning a trek to the Himalayas, we have to plan a lot of stuff, right? We have to go to REI and buy a bunch of stuff. We have to book planes, trains, and automobiles. We have to maybe book a Sherpa. We don't know how to do any of that stuff, right? It's all new to us. Are we going to get the right hotel? So we get to the airport and suddenly something happens and our plane is late or canceled, or so we have to travel through a whole nother way. We have to spend 3 days in Switzerland or something on the, right? That's the soul adventure. We plan a trip. We don't know exactly how it's going to go. That's what we're doing here in our soul. We planned this amazing adventure and trip, but we have free will, and things are going to happen that allow us to evolve our soul from the experiences that that are happening here. If we believe that belief helps me every day to know that there's nothing broken, there's nothing going wrong in my life. There's only an opportunity to evolve from this beautiful gift of this moment. This incredible moment has presented me with this beautiful gift. And when I can move into that and use that moment as a point of access instead of a point of victimhood, then I get to accelerate my journey. I don't have to stay in the gap for quite as long.
We are so busy and we're always looking forward or behind. but to look at each moment as the access point to what? To listening, to more?
The access point to us. I mean, it's us. We get to be who we get to just be. We just get to be. You know, it's like we're so distracted away from our greatness, and our greatness comes from recognizing this moment of being. And as we just be, we get to see, wow, I'm pretty cool. You know, I'm actually pretty cool. And it's not, I'm not better than you.
You're just you.
I'm just me.
Yeah,
and you're just you. And like right now, I don't know if you're noticing this, but there's a real profound energy here. It's making me cry.
I know.
Like it's this profound energy where you're being and I'm being. And that being is a force. We are influencing thousands, maybe millions right now, just by being. Just by being. So just imagine, as an entrepreneur, that women who are watching this start or move their business into the next stage from this place of being, like Alanis Morissette did. That's what she did. She didn't listen to anyone. It was none of her business. She was compelled to create this music that changed the entire industry for women. It changed the whole music industry for women. No one has come along and done what she did for women in this industry. She did it because she was just being her, in her power. I believe that's where it came from. And of course, in our power, our gifts come through. We can see our gifts. They're right there.
And on to that, I've experienced where you're in this center of your soul, you look around and doors start opening.
Absolutely.
Magical coincidences.
Synchronicities, coincidences. Yeah. Absolutely. It's not about being successful. That's not what this is about. Mm-hmm. You know, the law of attraction, blah, blah, blah. That stuff was really important because it cracked open a door in our thinking. Yeah. But to me, this is about global change. This is about changing the world. If we had 750 million people, 10% of the world right now, that lived from this place of being, we would create a resonant energy that would awaken the whole planet, all of humanity. And I think part of what's happening now is that there are more and more and more people joining it. So it's not about creating a BMW or a new house, although those things will be there. Mm-hmm. It's about being present in your power, and that power is a creative force that opens yourself to those things, but way, way more. It influences everything. It's, if you can imagine, all of humanity is like we're all on a web, this enormous, beautiful spider web, and all of us are little flecks on this. And if we had 750 million flecks, all in place of being, creating space, that beautiful, powerful space. And that space now contains the potency of our understanding of our light and love and power, and that we are a creative force. That infiltrates and buzzes the whole web so that all of us kind of go, whoa, what's happening?
It's that quote that we all know, and it expands others to lift into their power, and they want to know what you know. Your customers come to you.
Yes.
Tell me one of your most favorite stories of someone you've helped step into that and what they've done. Tell me one of your favorite stories.
Gosh. So I believe that marketing is 100% energy, 100%. Ooh. 100%. Right? So it 100% comes from you. Right? So when we stand in that 100%, we can now see our customers and give to them. Give, right? And when we see them, we can help them to open to receive.
That part, explain it to me.
Okay.
I followed you up until there.
Okay. When we are in a place of pure service first, money second, and you know, I had to learn this the hard way, by the way. when I first started my business, I talked all the time about being service first and money second, and I wasn't. And the business went down. It was great. It was great. I was so glad it went down, because it went down so that I could learn that lesson, really learn that lesson. And so when we come from this place of service, they can sniff it and feel it and feel trust and safe, so that they will buy. They're compelled to buy from us because we have their best interest at heart. We're not wink, wink, nudge, nudge,
Right.
we're going to take your money.
Right.
We are, so when we think about our customers as who are they going to be when we're done with them? Who are they going to be when they go through my Soul Power program? Who are they going to be? That allows me to then create the marketing funnel. What that also allows is an opening in their field to receive. And when they can receive, they can take on material in an accelerated way. And actually, you get more people that participate, you get more people that have results. Because you're not just taking their money. You have their best interest at heart, energetically, consciously.
You bring them up.
You bring
That's
them up.
to that level.
And
where
so
they can,
the people I've worked with, I've had people that went from terminal cancer to non-terminal cancer. I've had people that when I was doing my entrepreneurial stuff, I don't do that quite as much anymore. I had one student that she went from making $50 an hour to making $5,000 a client, and $25,000 a month in a 5-month period of time. My favorite story is about those people who discover their power. And it's not about, I got the BMW, I got the job of my dreams, I got the house of my dreams, because all that stuff just happens as an aside. My favorite stories are when they tell me, I was going into my boss who's a bully, and I went into the center of my soul, and I was able to have a conversation that was far different because there was an opening. He asked me questions. There was an energetic opening for me, and the entire thing shifted. People who, the biggest one I find is people who hate their jobs, right? If you hate your job and you quit your job, guess what your new job is going to be?
You're going to hate
Exactly
your new
the
job.
same. If you hate your job and you start your own business, guess what's going to happen? You're going to hate your business. So love what is. Love what's in front of you. And when you love what's in front of you, even if it's a pencil or your chair or a computer, it shifts the energy so much that the circumstances of your job start to shift. So I bring that up because I've had many, many, many people share with me that they were running away from their job. If you're escaping, stop. Stop escaping, because you're going to bring all that energy with you. Pause, stop. What's happening? What's going on? What are you feeling? Move into the center of your soul. Honor what you're feeling. It's real. Move into the center of your soul. And then start approaching your life from this new place of perspective. And my favorite stories are the people who say, I hated my job, and every time they say it, I said, give me 5 things that you love. Oh, and it's hard because they hate their job. 5 things that you love. Well, I love my computer, I love my chair. And then they start thinking, oh, I actually love that, and I love that, and I love that person, I love that. And then they start having this love fest with it. And then they share with me months later, I got a promotion, I love my job, my boss moved away, that horrible person that was retired, all these things shifted around them. And they moved from being on before the gap, into the gap, and then outside of the gap, into something they never imagined was possible.
So we call this series The Millionaire Within Her. When I say that to you, tell me what you want to share with us.
When I started my business, I went from being a corporate America, and I quit cold turkey, and I went into online marketing, and I failed miserably, and I was 10 days away from living in my car. And I said, okay, I have no choice now. I might as well become a healer. You don't make any money being a healer. I might as well be a healer. all right, I'll downsize, I'll get a studio apartment, I'll live a simpler life. I guess that's what I'll do. So then I used, I created a system in the technology industry of marketing called the credibility branding model. I'm like, okay, well, how would I start my practice? It's like, because I had, tiny little practices that came and went over 30 years. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll start this program where I interview the leaders in spirituality, and by proxy, I might become one. And then I could promote my healing work and get clients. Well, that actually, when you go into that, you go, oh, there's an idea, right? Center of the soul, the idea comes. I can do that. It's based on some of my skill set. Yeah, okay, good. Then I attracted a coach who taught me how to monetize that model. 18 months later, I made my first million. Oh. Right? I made my first million doing something that I'm gonna get emotional. That was my calling, Be the healer. I trained 30 years ago to be, it's 35 years ago now to be a healer, and I did it kind of part-time. And that's what I was supposed to be doing, and I was fighting it because my mind had a belief. My mind had a belief that I couldn't make money from it. I was definitely about money at the time. So when I finally surrendered and said, all right, I'll be a healer, fine, I won't make any money, bam.
It's like, boom.
Right? So the millionaire within is the gift and the calling that you are hearing right now, that your mind is saying, that's not going to make any money, that's not going to do anything. It didn't stop someone like Alanis Morissette. She didn't care about any of it. She just followed the breadcrumbs. So the millionaire within you is the yearning, the calling to bring your gifts forward, to contribute. And it might be, to contribute as a mom or a grandma. And maybe, I'm actually seeing some of your audience that shifts their whole energy around their family. And that might actually lead to something. I'm seeing actually one person, a grandmother, who's going to support their grandkid to be the entrepreneur, and she's going to help them. Like, right?
Perfect.
I can see it. There's other people who are going to try and seemingly fail. And failure is the best thing you can do as an entrepreneur. Best. The most powerful insights and possibilities flow out of perceived failure. None of it's failure ever. So there's going to be people in your audience that are their mind's going to say, failed. No. There's always the breakdown happens right before the breakthrough. So many people stop at that breakdown. Don't stop. Don't stop. Find the center of your soul again. Listen to the breadcrumbs. Listen to the I am pulse, the impulses. Keep going. You've got this.
Remind us where we're all going. Remind us that we need to step into this. There's a bigger picture of all of us women now.
Yeah. So it's not about the men. There's nothing wrong with men, but I love men. Men are amazing. Protector providers. They're our heroes.
They are.
They're awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. But we as women, it's time for us to pick up the gauntlet. It's time for us to create a whole new paradigm of what's possible. Not working within the framework of the old, but inventing a new framework, a new way of being, and that is going to empower so many more people. The masculine has been in a state of imbalance, and it was needed in order for what's happening now to happen. And so now it's time for women to create from that place of connection to our soul, from that beautiful, brilliant intuition. And when we create from there, we're going to create frameworks and infrastructures for new things to happen. I do a prayer every single night. There's 150,000, this is my guidance told me this, there's 150,000 men, women, and kids right now out there who can invent the products that are needed to contain and shift climate change in the next 5 years. Every night I pray for those 150,000 people, right? So some of the 150,000 might be listening here right now. Actually, some of them are. And so the women, this is what women do. This is what women entrepreneurs do. Men don't, no offense to men again, but male entrepreneurs aren't at home praying for the 150,000 inventors in the world that are going to change climate. That's just what women do. We bring an energy that's different, and the world is ready for it now. It's ready for it, and we need you to stand in your power. Yes. We need you to stand in your greatness, in the center of your soul, in your state of pure, divine beingness, and that beingness can shift everything.
And what I'm getting from you is when you're scared, when you're in doubt, remember this interview, remember this time. Use it and know we're all going through it.
Yes.
We're all doing this
and
together.
It's all here for you. It's for you. Yeah. It's here to, as a catalyst, to break you open into your yearning and calling.
I have chills. Thank you so much for sharing all of your gifts.
Thank you.
And who you are. Just you do be. So thank you so much.
Do be, yes. Yeah. You do be too. Thank you. This is great. Thank you so much.
Did you catch that twist I was talking about? I hope you did. And I hope you took a ton of notes and learned as much as I did. In this next interview, Mary Morrissey. She is the CEO of Brave Thinking Institute. So make sure you have a pen and paper to write down everything she says. Mary, it is such a pleasure to meet you. First, I have to say that before you got here, I think 4 people came up to me and said that you are their favorite person and that you're incredible. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for saying that. I'm happy to be here.
It's happened over and over, so your reputation precedes you.
Okay.
To start off, tell me about yourself and your business.
In 1971, I started studying transformation. I had a physical challenge I was trying to overcome, and none of the medical ways was working, and it became very, very serious. And fortunately for me, I got guided into some ways of discovering that as I focused on my vision more than my problem, things began to change for me. So I got deep in that studied for a decade before I ever became a teacher, and I've been teaching transformation for the last 40 years. And it's taken me around the world to meet people, to discover how they brought transformation. I've worked with the Dalai Lama, with Nelson Mandela. I have the privilege of working with literally tens of thousands of people around the world, helping them transform circumstances in their life to circumstances. We're all going to have circumstances, but let's create them that are more life-giving and liberating. And so that's been my work, and so Brave Thinking Institute is dedicated to that.
Oh, I am so excited to talk to you. So you talked about, you started focusing instead of what was going on, but your vision. Tell us about that.
Well, I'd done my background work. I got an education degree, a Bachelor of Science. I became a psychologist. I studied the world's religions. That took me around the world, i.e. the Dalai Lama, and did a 7-year project with him. So I got to see how he treated circumstances, situations, and conditions. And I began to see a pattern where you don't get to not think. Everybody thinks that those thoughts have frequencies to them or vibrations that communicates a signal almost. You know, when you get in your car and you don't like what you're hearing, you change the frequency and you get better music or a better program, and you do the same thing with your TV. And so I began to see, the patterns of our thinking have a frequency to them, but it's and most of us don't even really notice what we're thinking. So I began to work with that and create structures to help people first create a vision, not of what they think they can have or what they hope they can have, but what they would love. And so we ask a different question, rather than what does my education say I can do, or what does the economy say I can do, or what do you think I should do? What would I love? And to stay in that question long enough, to develop a vision for the 4 main areas of life where you're going to create results anyway. You are going to create results. We have results right now in 4 major areas. Health, you can measure them. Relationships, the quality of our relationships, how much love we allow into our lives. What we're doing with our vocation, whether we earn income doing it or not, it's what we do with our time and talent. Does it give us life? Is it something we feel meaning and purpose in, or is it something we just do to trade hours for dollars? And then the 4th area is how much time and money freedom we have in our life, and how much can we actually allow, and what would we really love? So I help people create visions in all 4 areas that have nothing to do with their current circumstances, other than looking at your current circumstances enough to know there are 2 main signals, I believe, that come from our soul or our life force that help us know what needs to be changed, and that is longing and discontent. We get thoughts of, oh, I would just love it if, fill in the blank. You know, I'd love to take my grandkids here. I'd love to put my kids through college, or. I'd love it if. That's a signal of longing. That's life wanting to express more by means of us.
Wait, I have to stop you there. That is so huge. So that is truth. That is where you should go. Tell us, just define that point a little more.
Well, if you listen to your longing and you pay attention to your discontent, it doesn't mean you'll change it, but it means you can. You can't change something you're not aware of. So if I notice what I'm longing for, and I notice I'm so tired of running out of money at the end of the month, or struggling to pay my bills, or I'm frustrated with, and you notice that constriction, life is speaking to you that there's more for you here, and can be more, but not at the pattern you're currently running.
Okay. So you develop these questions, and I love, what would I love? Because it kind of takes you out of this box of where you are, and you get to dream again. You're open again.
Yeah, we cut ourselves off when we go to the how. You know, how am I going to do that? We get to the how in the trainings I do and the help, which I'm looking forward to doing with you today.
Oh, good.
Yeah. You got to get to the what before you ever really get into the how. Start with the what.
So do you want to dive in and
Sure.
get to a training? That would be like candy. It sounds so delicious. It's perfect.
Well, I know that our topic is women and money.
Yeah.
And so I thought I'd tell a little of my own story also.
Please.
And how these are not just principles that I teach, but things I've studied and worked with myself also. You know, nobody has a straight path to a great life. We kind of tack. We find ourselves off track, get ourselves back on track. So my journey is as an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur since I was 30, when I started teaching transformation and creating programs and products and trainings, and developed a very large in my mind, first version of my work with a 100,000 square foot facility and 100 acres, and it was a mecca of people traveling and coming to transformational workshops with many of the people you might know, Deepak Chopra, Marianne Williamson, my friends, Wayne Dyer. We were all hanging out together in that era. I had married my childhood sweetheart. We had 4 beautiful kids together. We were never really on the same wavelength. We got married so young. So we completed that marriage after raising our kids. And a couple years later, I married a different man who turned out to not only embezzle from the work I was doing, but 11 other businesses. And I ended up losing everything I had built in 23 years of building my work.
Wow.
And I'm facing bankruptcy, and there was a $10 million debt from donors and contributors to buy that facility. And all the bankruptcy attorneys say, well, that's what you do. That's what bankruptcy's for. You're going to have to bankrupt this. But I didn't feel good about them. I felt, we can give the building back to the previous owner, but not the people. And I realized that even though I didn't do those acts, I picked the man who did, and I entrusted him. And I realized, looking back on it, that I played like a little girl in that area.
Wow.
And I think many women fall into that trap, that the man says, I'll get this figured out, I'll know, and it's kind of an early version of the guy on the white horse who's going to come and save you. And because he was doing that, I was able to travel the world, get my books on bestseller lists, and travel and write and teach and speak and all the things I love doing. And I took my eye off that important piece of owning a business or having a business. Mm-hmm. So when it all fell apart, I made a decision, I'm going to repay that $10 million. I'd lost my business. I didn't have a job. I didn't know how I was going to do that. And why it might matter to our viewer is you might be facing something right now that you have no idea how to solve. It seems way bigger than you. And so one of the things I know is I'm not breathing myself. There's a power, call it life, call it God, call it whatever you want to call it. There's a power that moves into and through us, animating us, that gives us this life. I can't even make my heart beat one time under my own power. So my decision was I'm going to partner with that power that is connected to infinite knowledge, infinite sources of resources that I don't know about, but I'm going to partner and I'm going to build something new that can not only pay off that debt, but also bring great, great work in a whole new way to the world. And I had no idea how to do it at first, but I had a crystal clear vision. What would I love? And I just made a decision which made it easier for me. I'm going to pay this off or I will die having tried. And I could sleep at night once I made that decision. And so I created an escrow that had all their names on it. And we decided I would put 25% of everything that came my way into that fund. And then I moved to California and my life was beginning again. And then I began to look at, well, if I take 25%, and then I pay 37% federal taxes, and then I pay the California state tax, wow, I'm down to like 30 cents or something left for me.
That's not much.
And I thought, how am I going to do this? And I heard, then you better make a lot of 33 census and let it multiply. And it took a long time. It took a long time. I finally got it to zero balance after 14 years. But better than that is who I had to become in the process to achieve that, and what I had to learn about how to navigate the gap between where I was and where I wanted to be. And I've become a much, much better teacher also by means of that, to sit with people who are going through situations where the gap looks immense, insurmountable, and certainly not achievable from a previous way of thinking. So I over time began to study and even more, and I began to really unpack what Henry David Thoreau said in his essay around doing an experiment with life. Henry was what was known as, when he was in Concord, Massachusetts with Emerson, and they were beginning to develop something that became known as the Second Revolution in the United States. There was the Revolution for Freedom and Independence, and 50 years later, a revolution that became known as the Revolution of Thinking, where people were learning to think from a solution or think from the thing they wanted and not focusing on how am I going to move this. And what happens is you begin to generate different ideas when you think this way. So Henry decided he didn't want to just talk about this stuff. He wanted to do an experiment with it. He built a little cabin on a small lake there called Walden Pond, traded growing an orchard for Emerson as the rent. And he wasn't a hermit. He was a surveyor, and he did an experiment with life. And he wrote, I went to the woods because I wanted to learn what life had to teach me, and not when I came to die find out that I hadn't even really lived. And so he downloaded some things about that experience, and then he wrote a little book about it. And in the conclusion, and everybody knows this quote. I knew it was a good quote. I put part of it in my very first book that was published in '96 by Bantam Doubleday Dell. But I didn't know the deeper layers of it until 2007, when I physically went to Concord, and I was sitting by the lake, and the man I then had met and fell in love with, and we've been married now for many, many years, we're sitting there reading back and forth at the lake this essay. And in the conclusion, he says, I have learned this at least by my experiment, 2 years, 2 months, and 2 days, this experiment of really listening carefully to that life force, living each day in harmony with it and letting it take you forward. He said, I've learned this at least by my experiment. If one advances confidently in the direction of their dreams, endeavoring to live the life they've imagined, they pass an invisible boundary. All sorts of things begin to occur that never otherwise would have occurred. You pass an invisible boundary and meet with success unexpected in common hours. New, more universal, more liberal laws begin to establish themselves around this person. The old laws are rearranged in one's favor. Nevertheless, one begins to live with the license of a higher order of being. And I realized that day that this is not just a great quote, this is actually a code for how transformation occurs in the way that the universe designs transformation. It occurs its way. My first real mentor in this said, I can't make it work your way, Mary. I can show you how it works, but I can't make it work your way any more than I can make electricity work your way. There are invisible spiritual laws that govern how things occur. And you can't be this and have that any more than you can be on the frequency called CNN and not be seeing problem after problem. That's what's on that frequency. You want discovery, romance, you got to move to a different frequency in you first. It was just words to me until I began to study it and apply it more fully. If one advances confidently in the direction of their dream, well, you can't advance in a direction you don't have an idea of. Hence, having a vision for your life. Where do you want to be 3 years from now, really? What would you love your health to be? What would you love your relationships to be like? What do you have that love of your life? Have you healed that relationship with an old friend or a colleague or a child in your life? What do you really, when you just, that you can have wealth in health, you can have wealth in relationships, in your vocation, do you love what you're doing, or do you check your soul by the door of the building you walk in? I don't believe we're meant to live that way. We're just trained to think we do. And if you had time and money freedom, nobody wants stacks of money around them, but you want what it gives you, which is the freedom to go where you want to go and do what you want to do, have what you want to have, and I believe even more importantly, give what you want to give. So we designed a vision for that, and if one advances confidently in that direction, endeavoring, here's the clue, endeavoring to live the life you've imagined. So when I was in that extreme health challenge, in an intensive care ward in a Portland, Oregon hospital, having been told I would have 6 months to live, that I had toxicity from a destroyed kidney, and the other kidney was 50% destroyed and active kidney failure. And this was before dialysis, and it was before transplants, and that was a death sentence. A woman came and she said, what would you do if you could live? And I knew exactly. I had one child at that point. I would have raised my little boy, and I would become a teacher. That was my early vision of my life. And she gave me a pattern of thinking, not about the problem, but just imagine. She gave me 3 images to hold in my mind. That over the years in my study around transformation, I came to know the brilliance of it. She says, here's what I want you to do. She said, so if you could get well, what would you do? I told her. She says, well, let's just imagine tomorrow when they remove the kidney. They were going to remove 1 kidney, and they said maybe then I'd have 6 months to live. And she said, let's imagine that they remove that kidney, but let's imagine that everything that is the source of the problem, all the source of the toxicity, we place that in that kidney, and it's gone. So when instead of getting worse, there is a possibility, because there are infinite possibilities. And the doctors were not telling me there was a possibility. She was. And it was interesting because I could tell she believed it. I didn't. Nobody else said there was a possibility even I could be well. So do this. Imagine that you're walking up into a school. You have a 5-year-old little boy's hand in yours. Feel the warmth of his little hand. You're walking into the school, and his kindergarten teacher is there, and he hugs her and hugs you goodbye, and he's in his kindergarten. You hear the click, click, click of your heels around the corner, and there's your first classroom. And we didn't talk about how that would occur. We didn't talk about where I'd get the money to go to the university, who'd babysit him while I was there. We didn't talk about the how. We talked about the what. And then she said, then fast forward in your mind. Do that until you can feel it as real. Then fast forward in your mind, and you're in a great big auditorium or stadium, and there's caps and gowns down on the stage, and you hear your boy's name called, and he's getting his high school diploma. He turns and waves it. You're just bursting with pride for his graduation. So she's got feeling, clarity in the pictures. And then she says, and your teaching career is growing. Then fast forward in your mind, and you're sitting in the front row of a wedding, and you're the mother of the groom. And your son's marrying the love of his life. Your teaching career is thriving. So, and just repeat that. So I was a unconscious competent, because I didn't really know what I was doing, but I just did what she told me. And my numbers started, after the surgery, my numbers started to stabilize. And then they said, well, maybe you're going to have a little more time than we expected. And then after a couple of weeks, they said, well, if you want to go home for a little while before you have to come back to the hospital. I went home in an ambulance. I was so weak I couldn't even lift my head off the pillow, and had to go in the urologist's office 3 times a week for testing. But they just slowly started improving my numbers. And finally, about 5 months after the surgery, they held a meeting, and it was the surgeon, the urologist, the specialist, all the main people who would help me, and they were scratching their heads saying, we have no science for why that one kidney, and the surgeon said, I saw it, it was all modeled and pocketed. It said that was a 50% destroyed kidney at best. We have no science for why it's functioning as a fully functioning kidney. We don't know how long this will last, or if it will, but whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Mm-hmm. I didn't even really know what I was doing. But here's Thoreau's code: endeavoring to live the life you've imagined. I was living that life repeatedly, several times a day, in my mind, and then doing what was required to heal. So like I said, it took me some time to get curious about all that and then study it. But I keep finding it over many, many years of study. I'm an avid student. I study every single day for what it gives me, but also my ability to give that to others.
Wow. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And I hear you're going to maybe play with us and walk us through something.
Yeah. So let's, since we're here to talk about money.
Yes.
And money is a form of energy. Okay. And particularly, I'm going to speak to women about this, although men, you can enjoy this too.
Thank you. Thank you.
Take a deep breath right now and know you have a relationship with money right now. It's either easy for you, or there's a pattern where tend to have some struggle with it, or you have just enough, or if you just, without judging it, just notice what my current pattern with money, which is equivalent to my current pattern with my ability to express myself and the freedom that comes with it.
Wait, say that last part again. So you notice your relationship with money, but then
my relationship with money is an expression. It's the form of my inward relationship with freedom and expression of myself, how much I allow myself. And I have probably some hidden barriers that I'm not aware of, that even though I want more freedom and I want more expression, I'm not aware. It looks like it's not coming to me, right. And I'm not aware that I'm not a match for it. And there's hidden barriers that are actually like the opposite side of a magnet, just pushing it, forms of it start to come, and then it all falls apart. Or I start to do better, and then here's the same thing again. As humans, we have phrases like, well, when's the other shoe going to drop? Like, this is too good to last. What if it's not too good to last? What if you can actually have real transformation? So you have a current relationship with money. Now you ask yourself the question, what would I love? What would I love in the area of time freedom and money freedom? What would I love? What would I do with that freedom? Where would I go? Where would I live? What would I give? What would I contribute to that would matter to me? And you begin to allow inwardly your own expression in your mind of, if I were really free. And it usually takes some time because we have patterns of how we normally think about things. So here's a story about me many, many years ago as I began to learn some things around this, and then we'll do the exercise. Part of my training, after I got my master's degree in counseling psychology, I decided to go to a seminary that was part of its training was in studying the relationship with Christianity and all the world's religions and the ancient philosophies and the threads of connection that were there, and that was of interest to me. I felt like, I think God, or this spirit, has got to be bigger than any one religion. It was my fundamental belief about it. So I was in that training. It was a 2-year training. In the summer between the 2 years, there was a big seminar that was going to happen in Los Angeles, and there was a speaker coming from New York who was filling Lincoln Hall every single week with his lectures. And I'd heard some of his, in those days, cassette tapes. And so I went to California to go to this seminar. This day he was speaking, it was held in a much larger auditorium. There would be 3,000 people there. I got there early. I'm still 1,000 people back. I've got my notebook. I'm all ready to receive his message. And so this man, Raymond Charles Barker, walks out. He's like 80. He's got all beautiful shock of white hair. In those days, he's wearing a beautiful black double-breasted suit and shiny shoes, and he's the picture of prosperity to me. And in those days, I'm struggling with money. I mean, I'm doing what I really, I'm getting myself to different institutions and schools, but I've got student loan debt, and I'm, we're getting by each month, and so he walks out and he just looks at the audience for It seemed like a long time, maybe a whole minute or two, I don't know. And then he reached in his back pocket and he pulled out his wallet. This is mine. And then he reached in and he pulled out a whole pile of money. Now, his were all hundreds. I realized this morning I didn't bring hundreds. But so he brings out this whole pile of money and he holds it up. And then he holds it up for the whole audience to see. And he said, this is money. This is money. I love money. I just love money. And then he went, and I'm thinking, oh my God, this guy, I felt repulsion. I was criticizing him in my mind. And the thought, he's not even spiritual. This guy is not even spiritual. I mean, who loves money like that? And so then he put the money back in his wallet. And he says, so I don't want you to raise your hand, but I just want you to check in with yourself and notice whether or not you thought some thoughts of criticism about what I just did, or some thoughts of repulsion, you don't like me now. Or maybe you even thought, this guy's not spiritual. Yeah. And it was like he just reached inside my head. And then he says, so I want to tell you something. Money heard you. Why would it come where it's not loved? If I had done something different than what I just did, if I had walked out with a little 5-year-old little boy, and I picked up this beautiful little boy and I held him up to you, and I said, this is my grandson. This is my grandson. I love my grandson. Not one of you would have criticized me or judged me or thought I wasn't spiritual, because you've been programmed. It's okay to love a grandchild, and it's not okay to love the symbol of your own freedom. Money is a symbol for your freedom.
Your own freedom. Wow.
Your ability to allow yourself to experience the gift of life to the degree that you can give the gift of life in the way that matters to you. So you can give your gift to the world in your creations, in your vocation, in the things you do for people and places that matter to you. And that was the fact that I heard that, and I was like, okay, I must have a lot of hidden resistances to allowing more good, because even though I can talk prosperity or abundance, even though I study it and I'm beginning to even be able to teach about it, my life doesn't show the full result of it. I've still got struggle patterns. So I began to get interested in just taking some notice about patterns that produce struggle and resistance to allowing more good in our lives. It could be in love, could be in health, could be in any expression of life. So let's take a moment now, all of us. And we go to that place where we take it out. Let's just take a couple of deep breaths here. And I find a really good way to get relaxed is to take in a normal breath through your nose and then breathe out slowly as if you're breathing out through a straw. Notice how relaxed you start to feel. One more time. And then out through the straw. And one more time. So let's notice now that you and I woke up this morning. Not everybody did. This is a gift of life that's handed to us each day. It's as if life says to you and to me, here, I hand you the greatest gift I have. It's a gift of life. Do with it what you will. Nobody gets to think your thoughts today but you. Nobody gets to choose what you're going to make matter or put your attention on today but you. Therefore, I hand you this gift of life. Create with it what you will. And so as we give thanks for this life, and we perhaps, if we haven't noticed it before, we could notice that I have been noticing signs and signals of longing and discontent. So in the area of money or freedom, if I really could go where I wanted to go and do what I wanted to do and give what I wanted to give, create what I want to create, what would I do? What would it be? What would my health be like? What would my relationships be like? And like the woman who said to me, imagine you've got a little boy in your hand and you're walking him out to kindergarten. There was nothing in my current reality that said that could happen, but I could make it happen in my mind. So make it happen in your mind right now. Where would you be? Every dream house begins with a blueprint. This is blueprinting for a life. where you create a blueprint for a life you would absolutely love. And you work just like when you're making a blueprint for a house, you realize that room isn't big enough. I want higher ceilings here. So you begin to work with a blueprint for your life where when you step inside of it, you feel expansive. Because your energy, your soul will never lie to you. It feels expansive. You get an expansive feeling when you've got more life pouring through you, and you get a constricted feeling when you move to fear or why it can't happen and what's wrong with you and all the many patterns that create more and more constriction. So we want to stay in that expansive feeling while we're building our vision. And then we take a kind glance back on our history. And we realize that we have a pattern of a relationship with this thing called money. We just have a pattern with it. We don't make it wrong, we just notice it. It might have been that we were raised in families where we were taught money doesn't grow on trees, and if you want more money, you gotta work harder. And there were patterns of how this thing called money comes to us. And we just begin to notice those patterns. And then we make a decision here. Those are just patterns. Doesn't matter how long they've been there, they can be changed. They can be changed, and actually quite easily. Particularly when we create a vision of what we would love. And we step inside of it as if it's real. I've got a little boy, I'm walking into kindergarten. I'm in high school graduation, I'm at the wedding. And they are become real moments in me of a woman living a life she loves while her work in the world is growing. And when the how comes up, I remind myself, I don't have to know how, I have to know what. And of course, there are some things to do, but the first thing is to know what so much that when you step inside of it, you're just vitally alive. So pick one, Chrissy. You got something that if it's 3 years from now, let's say, you really love to bring transformation into your life? You don't have to say it out loud, or you can.
I do want to tell you so you can help someone who's maybe, mine is so general. Does it have to be very specific? And
Well, you will have specific results.
I feel like in my life, I'm at a visioning stage, and I'm just beginning to taste what I want. So is it okay to not be exactly clear? Like, I can't see the little boy, I can't get that clear, but I get a general freedom feeling.
Well, definitely that's a good thing, because when you have a freedom feeling, it's expansion. So you do want expansion. You can leave it amorphous, but you're less likely, because you're going to create specific results. You can't not. So since you're going to create specific results, if you even put some specifics,
Right.
I'd love to travel to Europe and spend 3 weeks on a bike.
That helps me. Okay, yes, it doesn't have to be massive, world-changing. It can be, okay, that helps.
Yeah, just you're
Yeah.
looking at your life and you have results. So
Yeah.
let's create in our mind results that would be ones that Christy would love. So I invite our viewer to do that. Even 1 or 2 things that, and usually they're the big longings, like the love of our life, health, that we have vibrancy and energy to do the things we want to do. Work that matters to us. We get our book done. We start that daycare, or we start the charity, or we give to the charity. We have the freedom to take 6 weeks off and sail in the Caribbean with a group of friends, and we sponsor the event. Or. One woman I worked with one time, I was doing a large seminar for about 1,000 people, and she jumped up and said, "I can't dream." So I said, "Well, come on up here," and I put her in a chair, and I said, "So imagine it's 3 years." Then she wanted to tell me all the reasons of bad things that were happening in her life, which is a typical thing in common hour thinking. It's like, let me tell you why I'm having the results. And then I said, well, let's not talk about that just yet. First of all, let's talk about if it's 3 years from now, wouldn't you want to have great health? Well, yes, and I want my husband to have great health too. And I said, so it's 3 years from now, and I gave her the date. And I said, so if you could live anywhere you want to live, where would you live? And she said, well, we wanted to live in New Mexico, and we would live in an adobe house, and it would have an arched doorway. She knew this stuff. She just wasn't allowing herself to own it in her mind yet, even. And then when we got to the part about freedom, and I said, so if you could go anywhere or do anything, what would you do? And then she burst into tears. And she said, I've always wanted to have the financial freedom to be able to take 2 weeks off work and go to Wyoming. I said, Wyoming? I'm thinking Paris or something.
Hawaii.
That's why dreams are so life-giving uniquely. We can't judge anybody else's dreams. It's just what brings people alive. And so she says, I wanted to go to Wyoming. I said, and what would happen? What would you love to do in Wyoming? And she said, there's a place there where I could volunteer for 2 weeks where we love animals back to life after they've been used in medical experimentations. And her heart was just, and she was so alive. And it was maybe 3 years later, she came to a different seminar and she says, guess, do you remember me? But she looked different. She was vibrant. And I said, I know we've met. And she says, I'm the woman who wanted to go to Wyoming. I just got back. Oh. Yeah, and so, I mean, on one level, that looks like a small dream, but when it's somebody's life coming alive, it's not a small dream. So we want to pay attention to what our own are. So now we went through a little exercise where you're beginning to unlock. If I pay attention to my longing and I notice what I've been discontented about, if I had a vision, a life I was living that answered the longing and dissolved the discontent, where would I be doing? Where would I be living? Who am I hanging out with? What's the work I'm doing that I believe has impact, difference-making, significance? What's the time and money freedom? Where have I been in the last 3 years that's a symbol of greater freedom in my life? Who have I given to? What have I done? You begin to write a vision. And you write it from the perspective of 3 years from whatever today's date is. So you mark that on and you say, and you put a date on it and you say, I am so happy and grateful now that, and you begin to, you can do it in a bullet point, or you can write it in a narrative. I'm just so happy and grateful now that my health is. And this year I climbed this mountain, or this year I've gotten into a walking practice, or this year, and there's evidences of you having a life in health that's dynamic, life-giving. You sleep well, you wake rested, whatever it is, stamina, strength, yes. And my relationships are one of the wealthiest area of my life. And then you list what's happening in your relationships. Not what you want to get to, but what you're having. And this was the main clue in what the woman gave me at my bedside and what Thoreau's quote gives. If one advances confidently in the direction of their dream, you've got to design it. Endeavoring, not perfect, you don't have to be perfect at it, endeavoring to live the life they've imagined. If I have that life, and I'm standing doing dishes, I'm not thinking, oh my God, how long is it going to take, and what's wrong with me? Why don't I have that vision? I'm not thinking those thoughts. I'm thinking how grateful I am. I'm thinking how beautiful this life is. I'm on a different frequency when I'm imagining and actually actively living from. And I began to realize in all my study of transformation, you can't get to your dream. In physics, it's impossible. You have to come from it. Anymore, if I stay tuned to CNN, I am not going to be on Discovery no matter how much I want it, wish for it, beg for it, pray for it. I have to move to the frequency of Discovery or romance, and it's all right there.
Einstein has a quote, something about you can't solve a problem at the same level
Of
the
thinking
problem.
that created it. Exactly.
It's the same.
And he said also, everything is energy. It can be no other way. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and it must be yours. This is not philosophy. This is physics.
So when you're talking about changing your energy, is that what when you're sitting doing dishes, you're just grateful because your life is how you imagine
Well,
it?
I'm imagining walking a little boy into kindergarten. You have images that and you don't have to do it all the time, but you want to stay tuned to it more than the problem. One of my friends who's a transformational teacher for many, many years, Gay Hendricks, he did an experiment in the 70s, I think it was. He graduated from Stanford, his PhD in psychology, was a professor at Colorado State University. And they were struggling with money, he and his young wife, and they were young professor salaries. And he was riding, it was winter, and he was riding his stationary bike, and he was thinking, okay, last month I didn't pay all that bill, so I better pay more on that this month. And in his mind, he's doing the machination of how to pay the bills again. And then he had what's called metacognition. He noticed what he was noticing. And that's something we can all do more of, is when you start to notice what you're noticing, you can notice whether the thought you're in is expansive or contractive. But if you're just in the thought, it just...
Yeah, you're fused.
That's right. So, and he thought, I have this conversation with myself many times a month. In fact, this is the conversation I've had all my adult life, and I've struggled with money. In fact, I think this is the conversation I grew up in, that my parents were having this conversation. And he had this thought. And he jumped off the bike and he went and talked to his wife, Katie, and he says, listen, let's do an experiment. We'll take just the minimalist amount of time we need at the end of the month to figure out how to pay the bills. The rest of the time, we're going to imagine that there's an extra $1,000 in our checkbook, and it's always there, and all our bills are current. He couldn't even imagine yet that all the bills would be at zero, but all the bills are current. And we have this extra $1,000. We won't spend it, but we'll walk around the world as if we could, and we'll stop at a restaurant and we'll look at the place, and we won't look at how much it is. We'll look at what we would love to eat. And let's just do this for a while. And he said, oddly, within 90 days, for the first time in his adult life, his bills were current and he had $1,000. What changed? Not the opportunities that were his, but his ability to use those opportunities differently. Because when you're on struggle mode,
You can't see it.
you can't get yourself to do it, because it isn't that you don't want it, it's that you have blocks to it. So that has been a very fun teaching to share.
Oh my gosh. I could sit and listen to you for hours and hours and hours, and thank you for teaching us. This whole series for women is called The Millionaire Within Her. What does that make you want to tell and share with everyone?
You can have whatever you get in harmony with, and you will have whatever you get in harmony with. If it's get in harmony with struggle, you'll have struggle. Get in harmony with possibilities, and you'll have more possibilities. So I would just say they could watch this, what you're creating. Thank you guys for creating this over and over again, because you won't just hear it once. It begins to seep into you, and it will help you again and again and again.
Well, I think you just read my mind, because I was thinking, how quickly are they going to get this done? Because I want to listen over and over and over again. Thank you
Christy.
so much for your years of teaching and sharing and doing, obviously, what you're so good at, and sharing it with the world. Thank you. Did you catch Mary's great tips and write them all down? I hope you took a lot of notes about brave thinking and stepping into your transformation. Okay, that was an amazing episode. This one is interesting. It really was exciting for me to interview Sabrina and talk about her mindset and what she's doing now. So I can't wait for you to watch this. Sabrina, it's so nice to have you here. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much.
Excited to hear. So tell me about yourself and your business.
Well, I hope you have a while. No.
Yes, that's why we're here. Excited.
Yeah, my journey in business has been so different and so all over the place. And I think years ago I judged myself for that. Like, oh, you're so scattered. Can't you just decide what you want to do and do it? And what I've learned and what I'd love to share with other women is you can change your mind. And it's not starting over. It's adding on to. And it's taking all that I've been and the sum of that, putting that into what I do now. Even if it seems totally unrelated, it has then become a part of me. So my businesses have been in Hollywood as an actress, as a competitive ballroom dancer, having fitness franchises, then opening another dance school and a martial arts school with my husband. And then he had a back injury. And we went through 5 years of crippling pain for him, emotional pain for me. And we went online to try to help more people heal faster because it took us so long to do that. And the door we went through was energy. So we went online, that business, to help people heal their physical bodies, to help people who were lacking energy, lacking strength, feel better, especially people over 40.
Wow, so much in there.
Yeah.
So, let's see, where do I want to start with you? But let me also say what you said at the beginning, and let's dive into that.
Okay.
That as women, and maybe women with passions, I think you're talking my language, because I felt the same way. Like, I have done many businesses in so many different areas, and if you judge it from the outside, yes, maybe it's scattered. So tell us about, let's say, all these ideas, we as women, passions, and tell me why it works and why you're saying it's not, don't judge it, use it.
Well, for me, my business is a part of my expression. It's the way I share God's love I like to say my programs are God's love in a box. So as I grow and as I expand as a human being, doesn't it seem logical that what I do would also change and grow and expand if I am the sum of all that I have been? So for me, all the businesses that I've done have been a deep search into who am I? How can I share? How can I love? How can I love myself too? So I think at first, the entertainment, of course, there's this great escape into the pretend world when you're acting and performing. And that was the place I felt the most comfortable because I was so uncomfortable being myself. Terribly uncomfortable, terrible anxiety. But when I was playing a character, I was free because I knew what to say. I read the lines. I knew how to move. They staged it. And so I could kind of hide in that. But then as I started, maybe it was 2021, like, I'm really good at pretending to be other people. But who am I when I'm not that? Which led into more of the spiritual seeking and sort of becoming a minimalist for a while, walking away from everything business, spending all my money, and then like, what am I going to do now? And then from that place, what would I like? And at that point, it was about taking care of the physical body and connecting through prayer and meditation. So I spent most of my time in prayer, meditating, sharing that with people, and a fitness franchise so that I could move my body, and that's what I did. And then as that grew, then I think that the evolution of the self-confidence, I was no longer hiding in performing, and that's when I really went back into dancing and started doing competitive ballroom and Latin dancing and teaching, and I had a charity event based on it. So I think it's the evolving of my soul and of my spiritual connection that caused the business to grow. And then going online, wow, being able to reach and help so many people. And what I find is those people that I'm helping, they're just me. And most of the time me, maybe 10 years ago. That's who I'm reaching, that's who I'm touching.
Explain more as they're just you.
Yeah.
You 10 years ago. So you're...
So for where I was, let's say 10 years ago, still maybe getting some misinformation from people like, you should hold back and not show that part of yourself so much. You know, that might intimidate people. Let's not talk about that. You know, or if you're in certain groups, let's play down your looks. If you're in certain groups, let's play them up. You know, oh, you shouldn't be so smart. Oh, don't tell people you did that, or don't let them know you don't do this. And there's just so much like, well, then who should I be? Which one of me should I be? And that's a big part of my message is the way that it is right now, and I think what's happening with women and the world is fully show up as yourself with all the crazy colors and shine that color and sing that song. Because when I sing the song that's like my soul tune, certain souls are going to tap their feet, and those are my clients, and those are my students, and those are my peeps, and so that's my ideal client.
Okay, so I can't wait to dive into that. But before we do, so every time you start a new business, is this you just coming up with, wow, that sounds like something fun I'd like to do? How do I get to what next should I do?
That's a great question. I think that at first there's I like to say, I decide that I'm worthy of something. I decide that I would like to have that. I decide that I would like to be that. I decide that I'm going to be the part of me that is capable of doing something. But as I walk down the road, it's never where I thought I was going, because the miracles happen. Love happens, coincidence happen. You know, you start down that road and you meet this person that invites you to do something. And I really encourage, especially women, don't know the answers before you start walking.
Yes, yes. Yes.
Yeah, I kind of know where you're going, but you don't have clear vision until you get there, and until it's always miracles. It's always synchronicity. The most insane things have always happened to me because I try to have fun, and I try to be playful and kind and aware, and I love learning, and I let life unfold.
Hearing you we've done a lot of interviews, but hearing you for the first time, I'm sitting here kind of flabbergasted because you're explaining my life. We have a lot of similarities, and I want to give an example to prove your point.
Oh, great.
And I think it's interesting because I think it'll walk women through who are looking. I think a lot of us right now are searching for that thing, and we're on the hunt.
Yeah.
So I love yoga and I love doing it. And I had a friend who said, I'm doing this yoga studio, would you like to come on board? And I thought, no, I don't want to do a franchise. And I thought, wait, that's everything I love, business and yoga. Okay, great. I mean, it was right in front of me. So I stepped through that door, and I was living my passion. I was joyful. I'm doing yoga in the park, having so much fun. And a man I've known for 15 years, Jeff Hayes, I invited he and his wife to come do yoga just as friends. And he came to me with a concept for this series.
Oh, wow.
And so it's, like you said, allow the miracles. But I was on my path doing,
Yes.
the door opens and you say yes, and the door opens and I'm following my bliss. And
Yeah.
I'm just have to tell women out there that that is the way you walk through. And to not know, how could I know? I mean, my whole life has been that way. So I'm just like in awe of how you're telling us the formula, because that's been my experience too.
And learning to kind of, some people call it a God whisperer, some people call it intuition. And I finally realized when you listen to your intuition, it doesn't speak in a disguised voice. It sounds very much like your own. And so what thoughts am I having are soul guidance and which aren't? Well, for me, the ones that feel really good
Yes.
are soul guidance. And I have an example. I was packing last night. I came here from Austin, Texas. And I've got a new curling wand. And I'm not sure I like it. It's too skinny. So I got my tried and true. I put it in the luggage, and I thought, why don't you take two? I'm like, you've never taken two, ever. Well, just take it. I plugged in the old one in the room, and it blew up. And that's, like, so what? But I laugh in that moment, and I always try to say to life, you're so funny.
And the
You're so funny.
miracles, whether they're small or massive, they're miracles.
Yeah.
And I think, and we're going off into a subject, but I think women are here. It's more about that little thing, that little voice that pops up and goes, why don't I take two? Well, that's dumb.
Right.
But then you go, yeah, okay. Why don't I take two?
Yeah.
And that's what I want to catch, because that was my question, that when that voice, that inner thing comes up, and we so automatically shut it down. And does that happen to you? So when those, like, let's say it was like, why don't, Sabrina, time to open up a dance studio, or time to do this next big thing that you had heard. What happens to you? Does the fear rise up? Does that voice, what do we do in that moment?
I think both happen simultaneously, and it's okay that both exist. That both exist. I've often described my experience of anxiety and stress, because I had an ulcer when I was 8 over a handwriting contest. Like, I had anorexia. I dealt with eating disorders because I was in a ballet company. So I know stress, I know anxiety. And I always feel like it's a line right here. And it's like, I stay on this side of the line.
How?
I think by remembering who I am, remembering who I want to be, remembering who I want, remembering what my life is devoted to.
What is your life devoted to?
My life is devoted to being a beacon of love. Being a beacon of love, however that is shared. And I'm married to that. That's my one and only. That's my true love. That's the love I share with my husband. That's his one and only. So I call it reframing thoughts. And he says, I said, I have to reframe my thoughts at the speed of love. At the speed of love. Of course those thoughts are there. Of course they're always going to be the one that says, oh, who do you think you are? Oh, mas la-di-da. or, everyone there is so much better than you, or you
I'm
shouldn't be
scared,
saying that.
yeah.
I'm terrified.
I'm terrified. This isn't gonna work.
All of that.
So you see those thoughts that aren't love, that are anxious and scary and fearful. I love that. I have to transform them at the speed of love. What do you hear on the other side?
Yeah, well, I would almost describe it as maybe 2 radios are playing, and I got to turn the volume down on one real fast.
Yeah.
I have to turn the volume down and remember the music that I love. And remember that this life is a life of service. And sometimes you just do it anyway. What if 2 radio stations were playing and I needed to perform a salsa dance and one's playing country western? I have to cue in on that salsa music and only hear it. And you can do that. You can focus solely on something while everything else is spinning and crazy. So I focus on what I want and what I can be and what I can share.
Do you mind like a personal, like, I want to know so deeply, like, what does it say I give in the service of love? Like, I want to know specifically what you tell yourself.
Sometimes it's I have to scold her, and sometimes I have to love her, that part of me that feels scared. Sometimes those voices come to get me in the middle of the night when I maybe have the guard down, things that I was coping with during the day, but in the middle of the night, and they start telling me all the things I haven't finished, all the things I need to do, all the deadlines I haven't met, maybe all the ways I'm not smart enough or good enough or coordinated enough, or I'm way too old. And, you should have done this 20 years ago. I'm in my 50s. And in those moments, I'm very tender. I'm very tender. And I kind of say, sweetie, I got you.
Oh.
It's okay. I'm here. It's going to be all right. You are so loved. You are so loved. You are perfect the way that you are. You are perfect in spite of all of that. The deadlines will come and go. Ultimately, none of this matters. Ultimately, none of this matters. We're all in our physical bodies for a blink of the eye. And when the life is over, nobody's like, missed that frickin' deadline. I don't think anybody's thinking that. And I'm going to tell you a vision that I had. I totally remember when it was. It was in the summer of 2020. And I was going through some of that waking up in the middle of the night. And I could say it was a dream, but it felt more like a vision. And my dad was being checked for pancreatic cancer. He has dementia. We were trying to move my mom and my dad into the house with us, so we'll all get a house together. It was hard to find a house. It was during, pandemic. So there just felt like a lot on top of the business, just the business of life.
Yeah.
And in this vision, I was walking down a street and I was holding a little box, and it looked like Georgia because the trees were billowing over the road and like weeping willows, and the houses were set far apart. They were kind of like plantation style houses, and I was like the actress in the dream, but I was also the narrator. I was like myself. I said, "Where are you going?" And I was like, "I'm going to this house over here." And I walked up all these stairs, and I was told to put the box on the doorstep. And I looked in like the rug. It was the doorstep of love. And it was the house of God. And I was told to put my box of worries on the doorstep of love and to walk away. And it was shared with me that 99% faith has been beautiful. But you have to have 100 if you don't want to carry the box of worries. And that if I could have 100% faith that only good things happen to me, that everything is a blessing, that I have everything I need to have abundance in all areas of life, that I could leave my box of worries on the doorstep of love and be free from that forever. And I woke up, I told everybody. And now when I find myself in that place, I'm like, oh, go put it in the box, Sabrina. Put it in the box.
Powerful, beautiful, perfect. and it reminds me of another interview that really stuck with me. And she said, I can't do the work I need to do, and so I give God my worries. I'm like, here, God,
Yeah.
hold my fear.
Yeah.
Hold my fear, because I need to do this. And so
Yeah.
right now I'm scared, but you can hold it for me, and then I can go do what I need to do.
Yeah.
Does it mean that you're not afraid or you don't worry anymore? Or does it mean you just kind of put it off to the side?
I think I'm on it faster before it gets out of hands. Like the momentum of something going down a hill, the longer it goes, the bigger it seems, the faster it seems to go, the harder it is to stop.
Yeah.
So I've learned that for me, the quicker I catch it and remember sooner, the easier it is. But I'm constantly catching it. I mean, isn't that what life is about? It's about evolving. It's about growing. It's about compassion. The only reason I want to share anything, to share with the women that are watching this movie, is to share it with myself, to say, hey, if I can put the box of worries, you can put the box of worries.
Yes. Okay, so there's that side of you're catching your worries. I want to know what you think when you're in your power, when you're sharing love. What is going on? Is it, you think, like, tell me kind of what is your mantra when you're feeling high on that?
I would say that when I'm really channeling love, it almost feels like I'm not there. Maybe because I'm so fully there, that there's no one there realizing that they're there.
You're so present in
I'm
it.
so present. Like, I remember I emceed a charity event for 10 years that I started, and they would put the big screens of your face up on the sides, those giant, and then you're there. And I'd be trying to talk to the audience, and then I'd see myself over there and see myself over there, and I thought, oh, this is what anxiety is like. You're watching yourself from the outside. Like, you're talking to someone, and then you're like seeing yourself from the outside. There's that much self-consciousness. But when I'm really just being, this is all me with no apology, what anybody thinks about me is none of my business, and there's no competition and no comparison, that's beautiful. It feels so free. I was telling my husband Tristan last night, like, as far as money goes, that's such an issue. Such an issue for everyone, but such an issue for women. As if that hasn't been allowed for us to have that, have a lot of it, have more of it than men. And I said, when you see a really fit person, you don't look at that fit person and go, dang, she has all the fitness. There's none left for me.
Wow.
Right? Or if you see someone who has planted flowers all over their yard, you go and you're like, wow, those are beautiful. You don't say, she got all the freaking flowers. There's none. But when it comes to money and abundance and that type of energy, love flowing through in that way, there's like, oh, she has all the pie. She's a have, I'm a have not. There's none left for me. Like, why do we do that with that energy form of money?
Yes.
Shouldn't it be the same thing? You celebrate. There's more than enough fitness. There's more than enough flowers. There's more than enough money.
I love it. And women, society says it has to be, it's such, this is, when we started this, it was such the next frontier for women. And it's not money. It's not, business. It's us stepping into owning and flowing all of it. Tell us more about how we do that and what it means to
Totally.
you.
So the millionaire within could be that one, or you can be the millionaire without. We can be the millionaire within. The millionaire within is allowing, accepting, receiving, almost receiving, being all that you are here to be. I used to think that I had to earn love. Need to be valedictorian, need to be a president of the class, need to be the top dancer in the ballet school. Got to get the part, because in acting, you are in competition. We're all sitting here in the room and only one of us is going to get the part. It's not like that in business. You have all the businesses you want. There's no competition because everything is so unique. We're not all fighting for that same role. But as far as the millionaire and abundance in life, it's in your relationship. It's your time, money, freedom. All of it is about
It's your
being
health.
the millionaire. Yes.
It's your family. It's abundance in all.
And all.
So I could sit and listen to you for hours and hours, but let's get specific about your business now. Tell me
Okay.
about who you serve and what you do.
With my husband, because we launched the online leg of our business after his back injury and what we had both gone through and the miracles that we saw happen in his health through energy, which can't be seen, really can't be touched, can only be felt. So we mainly help people over 40 who lack energy, who lack strength, who may be struggling with physical pain or emotional anxiety, recalibrate their life force energy so that they can get back to having a healthy, happy, vibrant life. And then from there, and here's where it gets really fun, is we invite them to be certified in a lot of our modalities and our curriculum. And then we help them launch and grow either an online or offline business and just show them what we've done. 2 people from their home with plenty of time and money freedom and lots of love.
Okay, so can you share some of the, the techniques you use?
Yeah.
Like, let's walk through people a
Yeah,
little.
sure. So our courses began, we started making home study courses, back in the DVDs, and they were joint mobility. They were very physical. Tai Chi, Qigong, meditation, back healing. And then from there we started live streaming, but before it was popular. And people loved it because you can really be so present in live stream as if they are in the room and you're there with them, even if it's Facebook Live, even if it's YouTube, and now on Zoom too. So we started live streaming. So we have an online Life Force Mastery Dojo where people take Qigong classes with us, fitness classes. We help them with their bone density, their muscle mass. Sometimes we salsa dance and meditation. And so we have people from all over the world taking those classes with us. And we certify people virtually in some of our programs like Qigong, and then help them start classes in their communities and really help them with their marketing, because they don't understand that marketing is such a dirty word. A lot of people don't like it. They don't like marketing. They don't like conversion.
Sales, no,
funnel.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, that's just explaining what you do in a way that says, here's how my thing can help you. Here's how my program can help you. You have this problem. My program has been known to help with that problem that you have. That's all marketing is. It's really figuring out how to say what you have in a way that lets people know the problem that you solve. So we really help people with that, because everyone just wants to hang a sign on their door going like singing coach, life coach, and that's really never going to be super successful unless you let people know what you can do for them.
How do you do that? Do you do it through social media? How do you guide people into getting their message out, and not only what their message is, but how do you get an audience? How do you do that?
Yeah, well, we have programs, and then we'll do like 3-day virtual events where we deep dive with maybe small groups. Like we just did one with 35 people, and it was amazing, and just helped just this small group of people figure out their message, figure out their market, how they can teach, where they want to teach. Do they want to do it face-to-face? Do they want to do it virtual? Do they want to be hired? Do they want to rent a space? There's so many decisions to be made. And what I told them is, so they all think they want money. I want to be a millionaire, right? And I compared that to, you look at a mirror and you want the mirror to be clean and clear so you can see a reflection. But what happened for that mirror to get clean is you needed a bottle of Windex, you needed some paper towels, and you needed some hustle. You had to put a little elbow grease into it. And so it's like, yes, you want the clean mirror, but you should be looking at the Windex and the paper towel and the hustle, which is what all the people that you're interviewing are sharing. This was my Windex, this was my paper towel, and this is my hustle. to figure out, how did you get that clean mirror? How did you create financial abundance? What style did you use to do it? It's always harder at first. When something's in motion, it remains in motion. And once the miracles start, they just keep on coming. But getting liftoff, I think, is the hardest thing, and that's because that's where the elbow grease comes in, and the trial and error is going to be faster and maybe a little tougher. And that's what I told people. For a few months, until you get your first handful of clients, it's going to seem overwhelming. But then it happens, like the spark gets lit. Like you're lighting a fire and you got that one little spark. Then it starts feeding itself. It just starts to grow.
Do you teach only to people that you certify, or do
No.
you? Yeah, who's?
We really love working with all coaches, teachers, healers, wellness practitioners. We say we help the helpers help more people.
That's amazing and needed. And I'm going to go back into something that I have to ask.
Okay.
Osteoporosis. It's now hitting women in a large way, and I was just diagnosed with something that really shocked me. I do all the right things.
Yeah.
Tell us what's going on with that. Where can we go for help?
Well, for osteoporosis, I do weight training and resistance training, because so many women don't do any. They don't do any. And I'm not a gym girl. That's why I've always done dance fitness and jazzercise. I don't like the gym, or I teach a dance fitness class, and I have every single day since 1994. Every day. I absolutely love it. And when I travel, I just did it in the hotel room. Because that's where it's a full body prayer.
Yeah, I was going to say it's your joy.
It is. And any energy that would have been maybe make me a little snarky or hard on myself, I burned it up, moving joyfully. And then I pull on resistance bands, I lift weights. I really don't lift anything over 7 pounds. And I put booty bands around my legs. And I've been teaching for a long time. Many of my women have increased their bone density. And most of the women I work with are 60, 70, and 80.
Oh, I love that. No, I think it's an important point that we don't talk about enough, and it's starting to affect women. So.
Simply, like, stairs are good. Anything weight bearing. So the way that I describe it, and I'm not a doctor, is when you use extra weight, let's say even just jumping very lightly, you're tugging on the bone, the muscles and tendons are tugging on the bone, and it tells the brain, oh, that bone needs to be a little bit stronger. And so you're naturally increasing your bone density because you told the brain. I'm all about everything. How can we get the brain to do it? Like even skincare. Like, I love skincare. And what can I put on my face that maybe irritates it enough? Like a little bit of a peel, or is it a laser? Is it a product that the brain goes, whoa, that was irritating. I think I'll make some fresh skin, right?
Right. Stress is, and I have to say, what you're also doing for us as entrepreneurs, you're causing a little pressure. So we have to dream more. We have to push more. We have to use that elbow grease. So it's the same concept.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Yeah. What's going to cause us to grow and not just be? I mean, how can you be completely satisfied and still open for more? Like, how may I serve? What more? And sometimes it's through a little bit of pressure. Like even in fitness, sometimes they say, you probably know this from yoga, tense something as hard as you can, and then when you relax it, it's going to go to a more relaxed state than it was before, because it didn't know it was tense. It was going undetected. So sometimes the pressure that you feel in business, can you quickly reframe it and say, oh, there's some tension. Boy, is there going to be some relaxation.
Oh, I love that.
And a lot of times the relaxation is a flow of funds. Something opens up.
So some women right now are looking for that next thing, or their first thing.
Yeah.
They're lost a little bit. So I know there's an idea brewing. I know there's something here. How do I find it? How do I find what I should step into?
I would share with them to not copy what someone who's built an empire is doing, because those steps don't work in the beginning. don't compare, what do they say, your beginning to someone else's middle. Start, get your first 5 clients, sell your first 10 programs. Think, not saying dream big, but make your plan to get started. And in doing that, you're going to have more visions about what you want to do. Because sometimes we think we want to do something, but we've never done it. And then once we're doing it, we're like, that's not exactly me. I think I would rather have more video, or I'd rather have more audio, or maybe I'm a Clubhouse person, right? I did Clubhouse for a little while, and then I was like,
Not me.
No,
Yeah.
that's not right now.
But what you're saying is so great, because here you have this whole plan, you're going to spend years and years and years doing it, but you never actually started to see if you even like it. So your advice is really telling, try it. But you're in movement, you're walking forward, you're trying things, and it doesn't have to be perfect, but you're figuring it out.
And to realize that anybody, any good mentor has done exactly what you've done. And the compassion is huge. No, I know I'm not, and none of my friends who help a newbie kind of start are thinking, they better get it all right, they better have good copywriting skills, they better have a good funnel, it needs to convert, how many clicks is it getting? You know, it's very endearing to work with an innocent person and tell them, you don't need to know all that. We spent so much money on equipment we never needed, and we were already hugely in debt, $200,000 in debt from Tristan's back injury. And we took advice from people who were telling us how to do what they were doing, but that's not where we were. We just keep it simple. We had our first $100,000 month on a selfie stick with an iPad in our dining room that we called a virtual dojo.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't, you go through all these like, oh, I have to do it this very expensive way. No, start. That's how you do it.
Yeah, start and feel what it feels like to work with your customer. Who do you want to work with? Do you love seniors? Do you love children? Do you love women? Like, what do you really love doing? Because if you can inject it with playfulness on your part, that's really going to speed up your results, because it's irresistible. When someone loves what they do, you can't look away. That's why we can't look away from children, right? You watch kids play, you're just like, I can't stop watching. Our dogs and animals, that innocence. And that's the way that I am just like in awe of somebody doing what they love.
It's evident. Tell me about your favorite client you've helped and what they first came to you with and now where they are. Tell me your favorite story.
I'm going to share about this one woman that came to us when I think she was a little broken in her relationship. She had been married to her wife for a while and going through transition. There's something that happens to women that I don't think it has to necessarily becomes apparent for men when you become an empty nester, because the man maybe was at the same job, maybe, right? And so she was in that phase. What am I going to do? Should I go get another degree, another master's degree? Do I want to keep working with children? And then feeling this kind of spiritual inclination. And I think she had taught aerobics when she was in college. And she stumbled upon us through more meditation and positive mindset conversation. Fell in love with Qigong, fell in love with movement and our program, and has gone through our system. We have a system, like a belt system, where you get belts. They're just wristbands as you work on being a black belt in life. And she was our first one. She turned 60 this year, and she's becoming a health coach, a health practitioner that helps people. So she's taking all that she has learned from us and mixing it with things she studied from the past. She's already knows how to be a teacher to kids. Well, now she wants to be with adults, but she had a nutritional certification. She's certified in a bunch of our programs. So she's becoming this unique version of herself. And I really love that. Not a cookie cutter, not trying to be what anyone else is, but this totally unique thing that she offers. And on her 60th birthday, this is what she wants to do to launch her business. She's going to turn her hair like a mermaid.
When you tell that story, I can feel the joy that she has rediscovered herself. She's back into who she needs to be and living, as you said, living in her passion, and I can feel it. Like she's back alive doing what she needs to do.
And her health is better. Her relationship is now magnificent. Her family, like everything gets better. As all boats rise with the tide. And that's the way, if you are just focused on making money, why?
No.
What are you going to do with it?
Yeah, it doesn't.
Right? So to be, like I said earlier, the millionaire within is a millionaire in all areas. And I think that just creates a vacuum. It creates a vacuum where money is not more important than health, is not more important than relationships. You can have it all. That you don't have to choose this or that. You know, when I was little, my parents, we weren't poor, but we weren't wealthy. And I remember on Sundays we would drive through the neighborhood that had 2-story houses. And that's what we would do after church. And we'd look at it, wow, look, that's a 2-story house. And my mom said, well, we can move here, but you might not be able to take ballet and piano and baton and gymnastics. And so I knew I needed to choose. That's the way that I heard that. You either get to do those fun things or you get the 2-story. What does that mean? You either get to have fun or you have money and you work hard. And so unwinding a lot of those thoughts, as you grow your business, you're going to see all those little things come up.
I like to say relationships are mirrors into you, raising kids are mirrors into you, your business is such a mirror into you, all that stuff, but it's all the same thing walking through, and we're just here to grow, and you just keep looking at it and keep breathing through it and keep growing.
Yeah.
So I usually end the interview by asking, what does the millionaire within mean to you? But I'm going to pause that question for you.
Okay.
I feel like you have something to share with women.
With women.
I just feel like you have a message for women about, I don't know, what does your inner knowing just say you need to tell us?
Well, I think that most of us are natural nurturers and natural teachers. And we get such great joy out of sharing our knowledge and our gifts with others. That brings us tremendous joy.
I'm getting emotional, yes.
And I had this interview with Dean Graziosi. And we were talking about teaching. And I said, for me, teaching is love. And I reflected back onto 2 stories. And one would be, we think about our grandparents. Like, what about the little boy who tells you about his granddad? I remember my granddad, we sat on the steps out in front of the house, and he's the first one that showed me how to tie my shoe. He showed me how to make the loop. He showed me how to pull it through the hole and get it just not too tight, but tight enough. He loved me. He taught me that. Or the grandmother with the granddaughter, she's standing on a stool so she can see up on the counter, and they're making blueberry pancakes. And the grandmother's stirring and says, put in the blueberries, but fold them in. Don't stir them, fold them. Because if they stay whole, when the person eats them, they'll pop with flavor, and they'll love them. And I think that's this quality of women, is this teaching and sharing and imparting. That is the quality of a millionaire within her, is to be that. Teach what you know, share what you love with such kindness, continuing to love it yourself, and sparking in the one you're teaching a love for that same thing. That's just so fulfilling to me. That's what it's about. Teaching is love, business is love.
Okay, I can't end it there. Tell me more. Business is love. Tell me. I feel that story from you, and I start to go, yes, okay, I want to share. And then you throw in that word, business is love. So expand our confidence and our knowledge that we can step into a business.
Well, business is the box. that you put the love in. Business is a box. You put a name of a product on it, and then you fill the box with what you love, with what you love, with what I love. I put in the box what I love because that's what I have to share. That's what I've been blessed to share. I share health. I share business. There's a lot of things in my box.
Yeah.
And you can have multiple boxes. But that's what you share, and that's how business is love. It has nothing to do with how much you charge for it, or you don't charge for it, or you give it away. That's all the stuff you kind of have to reframe. But business is love because it's the way that you impart and give what you love to others in a way that allows you to make more boxes and give more boxes. And now I have more abundance. I'm going to make my boxes even better. I'm going to have events about the boxes. And it just keeps growing and growing. I think any good business, if you look at the heart of it, it was birthed from love and passion and kindness and sharing.
And how dare you not? How dare you not? Thank you so much. You're a joy.
Aw.
You are love. It's just so fun to watch you. And thank you for being here. It's been
So fun.
needed and necessary. So you're a joy.
Well, I hope so many women watch all of your interviews and really listen and find that hope and then take an action step on it. Start taking a step so that you can call forth the miracles that are going to show you your perfect way.
Yes, perfect. Taking an action. Listen to these interviews, but do yourself a favor and do one thing and take action. Thank you, Sabrina, so much. Thank you for coming. Wasn't that special? Sabrina is a complete gem. I hope you learned as much as I did and loved her as much as I did too.
Hi, my name is Karen Thomas. But guess what? That is not important. What's important is your success online. I can help you start a successful, thriving business online, no matter how many times you have failed. If you have a desire to win, you can. All you need is Wi-Fi, a laptop or desktop, and be able to follow simple directions. Reach out to me and I can show you exactly how.